Hey guys, I'm Patrick with fstoppers.com. I'm here with Shani, and which one of these lights do you think is going to take a better portrait? This one. We're going to put this to the test. We're actually going to shoot with the poor man's light and with the rich man's light. So the concept is we're just going to take a beauty shot of Shani, and we're going to use 4 lights, and we're just going to build this up step by step and come up with one cool looking photograph. So for the first shoot, the rich man shoot, we're going to be using Profoto B1s. These are their battery powered strobes, and what's nice about this is you can just put this up here on the stand and you don't have to have wires running or anything like that. So I'm just going to set this to power level 5. And then to soften the light so that we get that classic beauty light look, I'm going to use a Profoto 3-foot Octabank. So I'm going to put this on the front here. And if I was really rich, I'd have an assistant doing this. All right, so we have the Octabox on the light. I'm just going to raise this up in a position that's going to allow it to come from a natural looking spot here. So for both of these shots, I'm going to be using the Nikon D850. I have a Tamron 70-200 lens, and then with the Profoto system, I'm gonna be using the Air Remote, and that's gonna allow me to wirelessly control every single light that we put around our model. So I think this light looks really nice. It's large, it's soft, it's giving a lot of directionality, but as you can see, our background has gone really dark gray. So for a classic beauty shot, I think we should blow out the background. So I'm gonna add a strobe to the background and allow it to fire into the cyc wall and produce a nice white light. So I just have another B1 here. I have a light stand. I'm gonna put this right here, and I'm just gonna guess that maybe we could go to like level 6. So as you can see, we now have a pure white background. Shani's face looks awesome, but I think we need a little bit more fill from the bottom. So in order to make this clamshell lighting work, we need to light from below. So what I'm doing now is I have a third light here, another B1, and I'm gonna put this on this low light stand. And of course, we want this fill to be really soft as well. So I'm going to add another light modifier. This is the Profoto strip box. It's a 3x1. If we add this here. So if my key light is set to 5, I'm just gonna take a guess, and let's start with 2. That's gonna give me the lowest amount of fill, and then we can always go up from there. So I think adding this fill light from below has done a great job filling in the shadows, and this is really your classic clamshell lighting setup. Now the key to clamshell lighting is you do not want this fill light too powerful. You really want to set that low and make it subtle. If it's the same power as your key light, it's going to be too flat, and if it becomes too powerful, you're going to get that weird uplighting, and that never looks good. So now that we have the clamshell light perfectly dialed in, I think we could use a little bit of light coming from the side just to accentuate the hair and kind of give a nice light on the jawline. So when positioning this light, I know that I'm going to want to just kind of hit the back of the head here, and I want to not wrap the light around the front, otherwise I'm going to kill the clamshell lighting that we just designed. And I also think this light needs to be soft. If I use this hard light right here, it's just going to create a really strong shadow, and I think your eye is going to go straight to the highlight as opposed to it being this subtle effect. So in order to soften this light, I'm going to add the Profoto 2.7 square softbox to this light, and I want to position this so it's very close, but it's just out of the frame. In fact, it might actually be in our photograph, but we can retouch that out. So I'm gonna guess the power here. I'm just gonna put this, let's go for 3. So it's gonna be just slightly stronger than our fill, but we can always adjust that from the remote. So when I look at this photo, it looks like it's still just a little faint. So I think I can turn up the light by about probably 2 stops, and I can do that here on the remote just by hitting the energy button twice. And so now I should have a full 2 stops extra on that kick light. Let's take a test shot. So this is a really effective lighting scheme that you can do, this clamshell lighting. I use it all the time. It's great for the fashion beauty look. Of course, we're gonna retouch these images and make them look as good as possible, but we just used $7,000 worth of lighting gear to produce this one image. Let's see if we can do it on a much smaller budget. So as you can see, I've broken down all the Profoto gear, and I'm gonna completely switch gears by using
Yongnuo?
Should I say it with such little confidence as well? We're working today with the Yongnuo flashes. I think these you can get on Amazon for like $50, so you literally can get 4 of these for about $200. I remember just a few years ago, we had all these Nikon speed lights, and these were like $300 or $400. In fact, I think Nikon speed lights might even be $500 now. So the fact you can do all of this with just a couple $50 speed lights is pretty incredible. But let's not take my word for it. Let's build all of this back up using speed lights and really cheap modifiers and see if we can get a similar looking image. So basically, I just have an umbrella bracket here, and I have a Yongnuo flash, and we've switched over from the ProPhoto Air Remote to now PocketWizard Plus 3s. So I'm just gonna mount this up here. So now that I have my light mounted up here on this arm, I'm just gonna use one of these shoot-through umbrellas. This one's actually made by Photech, and I think these things are like less than 20 bucks. They're really useful light modifiers. And essentially, this is going to allow our speed light to fire through this umbrella and give us kind of a similar look as the key light in the previous image. So I have this light now approximately in the same position as before, so let's go ahead and take our first test shot. So as you can see from this image, it looks pretty similar. We definitely have some shadows being cast down on the face. So now let's add a speed light to the back wall so that we can make it go pure white. So for the backlight, I'm just gonna put a speed light right on the ground. Before we had a stand, but I think I can have this fire from right here. I have this at an 8th power, and so unlike the previous shot where we were using the ProPhoto Air Remote to fire all the flashes, in this example, we're just gonna be using PocketWizards to fire the key light, and then all of these extra flashes are gonna fire with the optical slave. So as you can see in this photo, we have a nice white background, but we have a lot of shadows still under the chin. So instead of using a speed light to light her like we did with the ProPhoto shot, I'm gonna show you a cheap and easy way that we can add a lot of fill without using an extra light at all. So I'm just gonna use this milk crate that we have here in the studio. I'm gonna set that here, and then if we put this right about here, I think that's gonna do the trick. Let's take a test shot and see how much fill we're actually getting from this. I think you're gonna be surprised by this. So as you can see here, we've added the fill card, the light from the key light's bouncing down, hitting that fill card. It's giving nice definition to her face, and we're not getting those really hard shadows that we had before. So the final thing we need to do to reproduce the shot that we did at the beginning of this tutorial is we need to add kind of a kicker light from the back. Now before we used a softbox, I'm actually just gonna use another shoot-through umbrella that I have set up here. And we have another speed light set up here in the back. So this Yongnuo is set to, let's try maybe like 64th power. We know this light needs to be really low, but if I put this right behind here and just kind of get it skirting off the side, I think we're gonna get a very similar look that we had before with the ProPhoto and the softbox. So as you can see, we've come up with an image that I think looks very similar to the previous shot that cost thousands of dollars to produce, with just a few $100s worth of speed lights and modifiers. Now I could stay here and really tweak these lights and move them around and try to get this as precise as possible, but I don't really think that's the point of this. And for a photo like this, I think your time is better spent really working on the posing, the expression, maybe kind of the hair details and that sort of thing, so you can get a killer shot as opposed to really moving the lights around and trying to tweak them perfectly to make this shot look like the previous photo. Now, for all of you YouTubers out there, they're gonna say, but you still use speed lights and PocketWizards and expensive gear. You could even use LED lights, you could use light bulbs, anything that produces a strong enough light for your camera, you could put in these simple umbrellas and get this exact same looking photograph. And you know, if you didn't have umbrellas, you literally could use bed sheets, you could use cloth, you could use pieces of foam core that you bounce the light off of. The important thing is really just the size of the light and then the placement of that light. How close do you have it to your subject? Once you guys are able to master these fundamentals, it really doesn't matter what kind of lights that you have. You're gonna be able to produce really killer shots with expensive gear, cheap gear, or even DIY gear. So let me know what you think in the comments below. Head over to fstoppers.com for more content like this, and head over to fstoppers.com/store to learn even more from some of the world's best photographers.